lot of the people that work in that agency are so anti-American, it is disgusting.
And they'll have, regular operations going on, but the other operations are used to get dirt on people, to kill people, so they can keep their power, to do all these other things. People think that's movie stuff, but that's 100% not true. And then when you see like stuff coming out in the Epstein files, it just validates everything that we're talking about right now. It's and how people aren't overthrowing the government right now is beyond me. It's crazy.
I think about it all the time. It's one of those things that it's not good. Anybody that tells you, like you hear anybody that talking out in the bars or talking about, I killed this guy and this and that.
Sure.
They're either lying or they're a psychopath. Because I can still hear this guy dying in my head. I can see his face because like I said, when you do your bow down, you get to walk around, you get to see everybody, and you get to see what you did. Yeah, they're the enemy and everything, but what would I do if somebody was coming to my house? I'd fight. Yeah, so that exacerbated a lot of stuff that was going on with me. That time right before that, I was basically like the training guy basically for my team. Like I ran like the firearms, all this kind of stuff, because of my experience, right? And then after my experience in Afghanistan, the DO, which is like the number 2 guy for the unit, was like, hey, you're going to be in charge of the training for the unit. Basically, you need to do blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, roger that. So I started going to some of these courses and validated a course. Well, I came to a course here in Little Rock called Direct Action Resource Center. And it taught urban warfare, CQB, that kind of stuff. So I went to the course. It's a 5-day course, and each day gets longer and longer until you're doing basic operations. So you'll learn the tactics during the daytime, and then at nighttime you're doing force on force with simunition. It's like a paintball, and you're fighting an opposing force. And each day, the day gets longer and longer and longer until you're operating on sleep deprivation. You're doing your planning, and you're validating the tactics that you're doing during the day against a well-trained force. So it's one of the best. It's some of the best training I've ever done. And I went to the course, and the guy that owns the place, he asked me if I wanted a job, and he wanted me if I would come up and start teaching when I got time. And I was like, yeah. So I'd take leave, and I'd come up here and I'd teach. And it got to the point where, he made me basically a training director. And so I'm teaching, special forces guys, SEALs, FBI, all these guys how to shoot, all this kind of stuff, right? Well, at the 23rd STS, which where I was in Florida, at the opening, actually, we have a 3-man team here in Little Rock, a 3-man combat control team that they do like DZ stuff. It's like admin stuff they do stuff like that. And we had an opening here, and I couldn't deploy anymore because I was injured. I had injuries from my back and a bunch of other stuff. And so I was like, well, I can go up here and I can teach at Darcy while I'm still in the military. And that's what I did. So I came up here, I took the position, and I started teaching when I wasn't in the military, wasn't working during working hours. And then the guy offered me, he's like, well, if you can come on full time, I'll give you X, Y, Z. And I'm friends with this guy. I've been working with him for a couple of years. And I'm like, sure. So I took my medical retirement. I retired at 16 years, 9 months. And I could have stayed for my full 20, but I really wasn't happy. I couldn't operate. I was like doing survey stuff and basically sitting behind a desk, and I couldn't do it, man. I was miserable. So I took the medical retirement, and I was miserable. And you gotta understand too, this whole time when I'm here, I'm drinking, I'm beating people up at bars, I'm still doing like not good. And so I was like, all right, I get this opportunity, I might as well take it. So I took the job. He said he's going to pay me X amount of money, blah, blah, blah. And I even voluntarily trained the Marine Reserve unit here that runs from New Orleans up through here. We trained the entire battalion, talking like 800 men in like 5 months. I did all that for free, right? And when you're doing these courses, you don't switch out instructors. So when you do the urban warfare, when that urban warfare course starts, I don't go home until the course is over. So I'm working anywhere from 16 to 24 hours at one period. It's brutal. It's part of the course because you have to be able to you have to have credibility with your students. If you keep switching guys in and out, it doesn't work that way. So plus when you're suffering with these guys with the sleep deprivation and you're still operating at a high peak, they can see that they can do it as well. And yeah, and I brought a ton of business to this place from the Air Force. Like every Air Force unit, combat control, pararescueman came to Darcy because I brought them there. So I thought me and this guy were friends. Very first course, he didn't pay me. And I'm like, hey man, I was like, we had an agreement. I retired because of this. And he said, well, I just don't have it. I'm like, well, that's not good. If I got a family to take care of, dude. And I resigned. And then he went out of his way trying to smear my name, which didn't work. Yeah, anyway, but it was just, so then I had to start contracting, which contract is security contract. I had to start looking for jobs that I had my skills with, which I didn't have a college education. All I knew was carrying guns, shooting, my reputation, and that's what I used to get jobs. So I stood up, the Navy started a combat, what do they call it? Can't think of the name of it now. Expeditionary Combat Skills course in Mississippi. They bring out all these guys and they assign you to do these jobs and you had to like basically compete for these jobs. Well, I ended up being outperforming everyone. So I took over the rifle, pistol, and the tactics piece. Met a guy named Paul Markle, he's got a show now called Student of the Gun. Great guy, super smart guy. He was one of the guys that worked for me. But the politics that was going on at the time there, I couldn't stand it. Well, another job opening came up with the same company called the Fox Team, and it was going to be doing there'd be sensitive site exploitation in Iraq. So basically what we do is we would go in and do post-bomb analysis on IEDs, and we try to find out what the IEDs were made, who made them, the path they came from, that kind of deal. So I took the job as a UAV team leader with that guy. So what we would do is we'd go out and that happened. I'd put the UAV in the air, and we'd fly the security over top, see what's going on, that kind of stuff. Deployed doing that. I actually was in a place called FOB Loyalty for about 2 months, and I tore my bicep, and I had to get sent home. I had to have surgery. So that set me back. So I was out of work for like a year with that, and of course, drinking, still fighting. I had a cast on my arm, and me and my wife were at a bar, and somebody said something to her while we were playing pool, and I told him basically, I ain't gonna take too much more of this. And he said something else, and I hit him a couple of times, and I hit his friend, and I've got a cast on my arm, like to the elbow, like up here, so my arm can't move. And he tries getting up, he grabs a bottle off the table, and I said, "You sure you want to do that?" I said, both of you just got beat. I said, both of you just got beat up by a one-armed man. And like you hear everybody start laughing, right? It was, yeah. It sounds funny now, but it's like, it was just, I had no tolerance for that stuff, man. And it was, and I was fortunate that the bar, it was called the Goalpost. It was my bar, and everybody knew me. And I never started any problems there, but I never put up with anything, and everybody that I hit deserved it. And so I never got any trouble and that kind of stuff. And then I got healed up, and I got an opportunity to go apply to be GRS guy, global response staff for the agency. And there was a private company, which they do. The agency sends out to have all these different vehicles. They'll have companies that they'll give contracts to have these guys go out and hire people. So they're not directly connected to the agency, and they're not directly paid by the agency, like a third-party vendor type deal. And the company I went to work for, SOC, you apply, they check your resume, make sure you check your credentials, and then you have to go through a 30-day vetting course. Very difficult. Rifle pistol standards, very high. Tactics, very high. Driving, you go to teach crash cars, driving, all this kind of stuff. Super cool stuff. Like, I was sitting there like, you don't get paid when you're going through vetting, but I didn't care because it's just you get to do some of the coolest stuff, and you get to it's work, And I passed vetting the first time. One thing I liked about it too is every week you have peer review. So you have to rate the guys you work with and why you wouldn't work with them or if they're on the scale, which was great. Love that. Uh, there's Evan Hafer, Black Rifle Coffee Company. Okay, well he used to work at Darcy with me. Yeah, he's a great guy. Well, when I got when you every year you have to, every 2 years you have to go requal. Well, my second requal, he was one of the actual cadre guys. So I was like, hey man, what's up? He's a super good guy. Super extremely talented too. Rifle pistol stuff. Guy's very smart, very very good guy. I know there was last couple of years they've been people trying to bag on Black Rifle Coffee Company. I don't know the politics about that. I can tell you, speaking personally about Evan, great guy, tactically magnificent. I'd fight with the guy anywhere. Uh, anyway, so passed the course. Did my first rotation in Iraq at the place called the Villa, which is like the main headquarters. You have different outposts all over Iraq for different GRS operations. And basically what GRS does, it stands for Global Response Staff. What we do is we protect case officers, spies for the agency is what we do. So they'll meet with people. Depending on what's going on and where we're going, we'll go out and meet with whoever they're meeting with. If we have to go pick people up, we'll go pick them up. And they'll either have the meeting in the car or we'll go to a secure location or a restaurant or something like that. And they'll conduct all their operations. We have to protect everything that they're doing. Very dangerous work. Like if you've ever seen the movie Zero Dark 30, there's a scene in there where the doctor kills, he's wired with a vest and he blows up a bunch of people at the base. Well, that was the GRS guys that got killed because when you're a GRS operator, when it comes to security operations, you are the authority. You have final say on everything. That person in the car with you, even the chief of station, doesn't have a say. Well, everything the GRS guys said not to do, this chick overran him. Like, no, he's a good guy. Like, get rid of all security protocols, everything, and then killing a bunch of guys. She got killed too. But the politics is what sickens me. Those guys should not have been dead. They were trying to do their jobs, and they got sacrificed basically. So you see stuff like that. I saw that quite a bit. And my first rotation, I was at the villa in Baghdad. I did a 90-day rotation. I'm not going to talk about like operational stuff too much, but I can tell you that a lot of the people that work in that agency are so anti-American. It is disgusting. It is like you have like these case officers, like they hated us. We were people that saved their lives. These people think that they're Jason Bourne. They have zero skills, survival skills. They wanted to do like self-drive stuff where like two case officers would go out in Baghdad and pick up an asset by themselves. One a female, by the way, too. And I'm like, they're brainwashed to believe insanity. Well, you get a thing on these guys. Whoever you're picking up, you have a move sheet, and whoever you're picking up, you know their history, what they do, all this stuff. And a lot of times we're picking up guys that are known Al Qaeda members. What is it? Not Revolutionary Guard. I can't remember the name. Something Brigade. Like they've admitted to killing Americans. IED makers. So you have this whole sheet on this dude that you got to go pick up. That is spying now. That's telling on his people, and you're sitting, right next to this guy in the car. Sometimes you're just like, why are we even doing this? It makes no sense. And well, I'll tell you one of the hairiest things you got to do. So when you're a team leader of the move, you'll be in the passenger seat. You'll have a driver. You'll have the case officer and an interpreter if whoever you're picking up doesn't speak English. And then you have a follow car. It has a driver and a shift lead. He's the number 2 guy. So if you're picking somebody up out in town, like as a team leader, I have to get out of the car, walk up to this guy, and give him a man hug. Basically, hug him to see he's not wearing a vest, suicide vest. So you get in a quick vest, which is, sucks. And then he gets in the car, he puts his hand. Yeah, like especially you're going to some of the worst parts of Baghdad. It's like pitch black, dirty, rotten, nasty. And this guy, he's admitted to killing Americans. He's an IED maker, all this kind of stuff. And you got to walk up, but that's the job. It's just part of the job. You got to do it. And and one of the things that people would say to me, especially my family, they're just like, "Why do you keep doing that? Why do you keep going back doing that job?" And I'm like, "Well, number one, I didn't have skills to get another job that could pay me the money I was making. You know, but number two is that I knew that if I got out of that car, if I had to get out of that car and go to guns with somebody, those dudes in the car would get out and go to die with me. I wasn't going to die alone. I know that for a fact. And like the Benghazi example, prime example of that. Those dudes disobeyed the chief of station, the chief of base, to go save the ambassador, which if they had got to leave earlier, they probably might have saved him, and they gave their lives for that. And it's knowing that you're working with men like that. It's hard to explain to people the comfort you have in knowing that you're going to die, or if you step out of this car, you might get killed. But just knowing you have this comfort that this dude I know is going to go to guns with you, that helps relieve a lot of the fear that you go through. You know, and I can tell you, yeah, there's a place, or and like I got sent all over. Like a lot of guys call it homestead. They'll go to one location in Iraq and they like to stay there, right? Like there's places where super chill, super nice, no action, that kind of stuff. I got sent all over Iraq, and I got my second rotation with a place called Basra. It's in southern Iraq, and everybody in Basra hates you. Like usually, if you go to something like in Baghdad, people most people are friendly. Like they'll wave to you, they'll be nice to you. Like they're not like terrorists, you know what I mean? But everybody in Basra, they hate you. Like you can see it. Like you can see their face. Well, what happened was in the job, you have license plates on your car and they're Velcroed on. Well, in Iraq, they're riveted on, right? And before they didn't have like a real DMV database, that kind of stuff. But later on, they started getting where they were running plates. So we were in Basra, and it's a really dangerous location. So we had to get new plates, and you can't just go order new plates. So my team got tasked with going to acquire some plates. So I practiced all day on some vehicles, how to get the rivets off, to get the plates off quickly. And when you're in country there, you're not allowed to dress like the native people, right? So you're supposed to be wearing whatever you're wearing, which is usually like blue jeans and a cover shirt that covers your body armor and your weapons. But we had man jammies. So when we went out in town to do this at night, we had the right garb to do this. So we were out taking plates off, and we got kind of not caught, but somebody came out while we were doing this, so we had to haul ass out. So we were driving, and we're in two vehicles, and we end up getting lost. And there's checkpoints all over the city and this kind of stuff, right? Well, we come to a checkpoint, and usually we'll show diplomatic credentials, and they just wave you through. They're not supposed to stop you, but they wouldn't let us go. And something you don't understand about the Iraqis too is none of these people can make a decision. Like if they're a policeman or a soldier, they got to ask 20 people, and that guy's got to ask 20 people. Right. Well, this move was the team leader is a guy named Dodge. Everybody goes by call signs. His name was Dodge. Big blonde-haired former SEAL, long blonde hair. He looked like He-Man almost. Big dude. A lot of people didn't like the guy. I liked him because he was just he was who he was. Good operator. So we get stopped, and they're not letting this guy. He gets out of the car so he can de-escalate, right? So he starts talking, and it just goes on for like 30, 40 minutes. And then gun trucks start showing up. And we're like, oh, shit. And then he's talking on the radio. It's like, hey, everything's good, whatever, blah, blah. And then more guns show up. Pretty soon there's like 8 or 9 gun trucks, and we're like surrounded. And of course, each guy that runs each truck can't make a decision, so you got to call somebody else. Well, I guess the last guy that shows up was acting pretty sketchy. And Dodge, he comes over the radio, and he's like, hey, everybody come off safe. That means you go weapons hot. So we come off safe, and we start getting assignments in the cars. I'm like, hey, I got this guy, I got the gunner on this truck, and we crack seal on the doors. And I can tell you right there too, it's the pucker factor goes completely up. And I'm sitting there, I'm just like, I hate this job right now. I'm like, I'm gonna get, because if we'd have went the guns, we all got killed. We were way outgunned. And I was just like, oh God, this is terrible. Right. So got no spit in your mouth. Your heart's going like 1,000 miles an hour. Everybody's trying to look cool. Like, yeah, we're good, but everybody's like, oh shit. And God bless Dodge, man. Dodge was just like, he was super chill about everything. Right. Well, finally some other guy shows up and he's like, talking the dirt talk. And I can see Dodge. Yeah. And I can see Dodge. He starts kind of like laughing and he goes, oh, it's all good, man. He's like, he goes, we're gonna get back to this. We're gonna follow these dudes. So he gets in a car and he tells everybody, he's like, the dude that showed up told us that the reason they brought in the gun trucks is because we were in such a bad part of town that they didn't think we'd make it out. So they were going to escort us. I was like, all right, that's cool. So we go back to the army base they got, right? So these guys in the trucks, a couple of them were speaking English. So we're talking to them. And a lot of these dudes are just like us. They're just like regular like army dudes. And the one guy is like, I hate it here. He's like, this place is terrible. These people are terrible. He's like, I've been shot. He like pulled his sleeve up and he showed me he's got shot. He's like, I've been shot here. He's like, I hate this place. But it was just, they hated their job. They hated what they do. And I was like, you sound like army privates, it was kind of funny. So we're there for like a couple hours waiting to get released. And they have a version of their CIA. This guy shows up in this beat up ass car and he comes out and he takes all our passports and he goes away for like 20 minutes. He comes back, does our stuff, and then they escort us back to the base. We do our debrief and all that. And then like a week later, we have a required meeting that the chief of base, which is the head CIA guy for the base, he has to go downtown and meet with the local people, like the local politicians and all this stuff. And to get to this place, it's literally a floating bridge that does this. It's like on barrels, and it would fit one car, and it's like, and that's the only way to get to this little island place. It's like, I'm like, who thinks of this stuff, right? Anyway, so we get there, and I'm standing outside the door with another guy, and that dude that took our passports walks right up to me. He's like, Mr. John. He's like, how are you doing today? And I was like, oh, I know who you are now. I was like, oh shit, right? I was like, oh, and Howie, the number 2 guy, he comes out of the meeting, and I told him, I said, hey man, I said, that dude from last week, I said, he came right up to me, and talked to me, called me by my name, my first name. And he was like, oh, is that right? I was like, yeah. I was like, so that meant I couldn't go back out to that meeting again. That's how good those guys were doing stuff. Yeah. Crazy, man. Just stuff like that. You're like, And then we get back, and like 2 days later, they poisoned all the water. We had to drink all bottled, like we couldn't use the showers because the place is like bizarre, just complete backwards. But I was so happy to get out of that place. It was crazy, dude. Yeah. Well, I can tell you, I was in Baghdad when that went down, and there's some stuff that happened prior to that that kind of set the stage for that in Baghdad, right? So when you have radios and cell phones that are issued to you. So when they give you the call, you have to come to the team room, right? And all of us got the call. So we show up to the team room. They give us a brief, said, hey, the annex in Benghazi has been attacked. The ambassador's missing, like all this stuff going down. We're just like, what? And then they tell you, who's on the ground there. You don't know who, like, if you don't work the job, you won't know who they are, but they have call signs. Everybody has call signs, right? Mine was JB, very simple. Some guys are, like a Drago and all this other kind of wacky stuff, right? When they told the call signs of who was on the ground, I was like, oh shit. And then they come back and, we're getting updates, what's going on. And you find out that Ty Woods, Roan, was killed, and Glenn Doherty was killed. Both SEALs, both very respected guys, well-known guys, good relationships with many of the guys that were on the ground that night. And it was just like suffocating, like weight in the room. It was just, because then when you start finding out all the things that were denied to them, all the things they did, in spite of what they were told not to do. Like it's just they ended up saving 38 State Department people. If they wouldn't have did what they did, they'd all have been killed. And I think that obviously was the plan. I think that was the plan to get them all killed because they wanted the ambassador dead because of what they were doing there. They were buying back weapons that the United States government were giving arming ISIS people with. Yeah, that's what was going on. And they denied special forces, QRF teams. They denied air cover. They did all these things but the problem they didn't count on was the GRS operators saying, no, we're going to defend this. And they did. And they defended it with their lives. And you can't give those guys enough credit. To see the lies and the blowback that they got here back in the States from the politicians is just disgusting, man. And that was one of the major deciding factors when I decided to not work anymore. After that happened,
that was running. He was one of the guys in charge, Ninja, great guy, former CAG dude, which is a Delta Force guy. He tasked me with writing the GRS escape, evasion, recovery plan for like something happened like that for our guys in Iraq. We'd have a plan that everybody could go to and do. So it took me about 3 months to write it. I wrote that, and until I stopped working in 2016 or so, that was the standard operating procedure for the agency for those guys. While I was doing that, what helped, well, this is something that leaving when I left, I was proud of, is that we had a guy come in, what's called a walk-in. It's like people approach the embassy and they'll say, hey, I got information. And he said he had information on the last MIA, KIA American named Major Troy Gilbert. He was an F-16 pilot. And he was supporting an SF team, and he was doing gun runs in his jet, and he was flying so low that he couldn't recover, and he ended up crashing, but he survived the crash, right? Well, they didn't recover. Yeah, they didn't recover his body, and what do you call it? So they had information. They've been trying to find this guy for a long time, and this guy comes in. He says, "Hey, I know the location of his remains. X, Y, Z." So me and another guy, which is one of the agency guys, another intel guy, they're like, well, what do you think? I'm like, well, I say we shut down all operations for the GRS in the country. We get the Iraqi army to set a cordon perimeter around where this location is, and we go in and we get his remains. I said, I think if the longer we put this off, the less chance we're going to have to get this guy. Well, politics gets involved. They shoot that down. I rotate out. Nothing happens. I come back for the next rotation. Same thing. They think they know where he's at, but the United States government won't pull the trigger on this to go get the dude. Well, come to find out, right before I left, I guess some of the intelligence we gathered and some of the operations we did, they led part recovery of some of his hand. And they had it in Jordan, I guess. So where these assets had it in Jordan. So they ended up getting part of his remains. And I'll tell you what was crazy is, like, a couple of days after that, I found that out. I was like, all right, well, cool. We got at least some family got something back. I'm on YouTube, and a video pops up. And you know who it is? It's Major Troy Gilbert's last message to his family, like the night before he flew his mission. He was talking to his wife and kids. I think it was like Christmas Eve or something like that, or Thanksgiving. And I never searched for the guy's name, but it came up in my feed on YouTube. And I was like, how odd is that? I was like, wow. So I watched it, man. It got me choked up. I was just like, man. And I just kept thinking, if we would have acted on this 5-6 months ago, maybe we could have got his arm or his leg or even something more. But again, politics, bureaucracy, like poo-pooed all that. And that was like one of the last straws for me too. I was just like, it's not worth the money anymore. Especially after Benghazi and all that kind of stuff. Plus, you had a bunch of internal, what do you call it? The politics in it, dealing with people that I'll tell you a prime example. I was a team leader from one of the moves, and the case officer, she's a female. She was probably 26, 27 years old, about 100 pounds. Right. So when you give your brief, you give a brief on what's required to wear. And policy from the chief of station, which is the number one guy in the country, is when you leave the wire, you have to have your body armor on and a weapon, right? I give the brief, sure. Everything's good to go. I have one of my guys come up and tell me, it's like, hey, JB, she doesn't have her plates in. I'm like, what do you mean? She's got her carrier, but no plates. So I go up to her. I say, "Hey, ma'am," I said, "you got to have your plates in." She's like, "Well, it hurts my back, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going out." I said, "Well, you're not going out then." Well, she like gets all poo-poo face and goes around me and goes to the chief of base, who then turns to the chief of station. Chief of station's like, "No, policy is you're going to wear your plates." Well, they come back to me.
Right.
They come back to me and they're like, "All right, she got to wear her plates." I'm like, "All right, great." I had to carry her plates and plate carrier down to the car for her because it hurt her back. And I'm like, she shouldn't be leaving there. She shouldn't be out of the wire. She's not physically able to sit in a car with plates on. I said, she's become a liability to me and the rest of my team. Because now I got to drag. It's stuff like that, brother. Like it's so insane that you're just like, how are these? But these are the people that are making these decisions. It, it's it's like one of those. I just like I'm dumbfounded. I'm just like, wow, that makes perfect sense. If you saw the amount of money, like I personally have taken $2.5 million in cash in a bag, in a duffel bag, in the trunk of a car to a sheikh. Like we had to drive, and mind us, the cars are they're way past they're armored vehicles, but they're way past their service life. Some of the doors don't shut all the way. They break down all the time. We're driving 45, 50 miles outside of Baghdad into like the bad guy town with $2.5 million in cash. And that was just one time. We had 4 or 5 teams operating, doing that all over the country. We're giving these people cash. Just, it's insane, dude. And everybody in the country's on payroll too, by the way. Like you pick people up and then get in the car that work in the banks, the government, like almost all the generals, their FBI guy. Like I'm like, who are we not paying? It's crazy. And we can't even get a car that runs half the time. I'm being dead serious. It's so frustrating because the guys I worked with, most of them are like legit patriotic dudes. They're trying to do the right thing, man. They're trying to do the right thing, trying to help people, trying to do like pursue America's mission. And then you get that kind of stuff thrown in your face. You're just like, is it worth doing it anymore? It wasn't. It wasn't. I'm a firm believer that those agencies, they're not there to protect Americans. They're there to protect the people that actually pay the government. And that's all of them. That's MI6, all those people. You have a certain floor in each of those buildings that control everything. And they'll have, regular operations going on, but the other operations are used to get dirt on people, to kill people, so they can keep their power to do all these other things. People think that's movie stuff, but that's 100% not true. And then when you see like stuff coming out in the Epstein files, it just validates everything that we're talking about right now. It's and how people aren't overthrowing the government right now is beyond me. It's crazy.
Let's try not to end up with somebody visiting my door out here. If you got something out of this, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this, guys, because conversations like this matter. Hey, listen, man, thank you so much again for coming on. It's been a long time in the making. It was great catching up with you, and we'll see you next time on Rodney Hood Talks. You guys, remember, God loves you, and so do we. Peace.